Hey, you guys, Josh out here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining me on my Night Owl podcast. You guys, this has been going strong for about 3 years now. I couldn't be more proud. Loads and loads of information, lots and lots of thoughts, a lot of them just running over each other. And I'm trying really hard to pin at least one of them down every time I get on the mic because I do want to be able to explain what it is that I'm thinking because there are just so many thoughts. There are so many wonderful thoughts, and I've become really good at observing and listening and trying to understand where everything comes from. Where do we get these notions? How much of our lives is actually programmed? And it's a little scary sometimes, but it's well worth the thought process. It's well worth the digging in every so often because I get a chance to glimpse into someone's psyche, right? Their traumas, what pushes them to do what they do, what drives them to go after the dreams that they have, or shy away from it because they're afraid of, I don't know, who knows? It could be rejection, it could be abandonment, it could be the fear of succeeding because maybe the success will be too much for them. I remember there was a quote, I think, no, a lyric from B.O.B. I think it's from B.O.B. Something about the fact that, oh no, it's J. Cole, and the song is Rich Niggas, but he was talking about how he envies people who are rich because he's never had any money, and even then he's not really good with money, so it's probably not a good thing if he were to be rich because he wouldn't be rich for very long. So that kind of concept that, if you have it but you've never had it before, how would you feel? Are you afraid of it because you're not good with it? You've never seen someone successful with money before, and so you're afraid of success. And I wonder sometimes if I'm the same way. Anyway, nevertheless, I want to talk about the fact that yes, we are all programmed to a degree, not necessarily through school, but by the behaviors we see around us, what's acceptable, not what's not acceptable. A lot of it is punishment, right? What do we get in trouble for at home? What do we get told off for? What do we get judged for? What do we get reprimanded for? All those things kind of come into play when it comes to how we relate to other people and how we communicate. But the communication part is the one I want to dig into today because I think it's really, really important for us to realize exactly how much risk is involved with opening our mouths and saying anything at all. And then how many times we rethink something before we even type it out. And today, that's what I'm going to talk about. The amount of times that the backspace wins. The amount of times we get ready to say something because that's what we feel, and they're like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm a complete utter fool if I say this, or they're going to judge me, or I'm going to be seen as a fraud or a bigot or a racist or a homophobe, any one of a million things, right? If I say something, because then it's in black and white. Maybe it's a text that you're talking about, right? The point is, though, it's communication. And once it lets loose from your lips or your fingers, whichever one is the case, a lot of times you can't take it back. And a lot of times you don't get a chance to explain it either. I hate text. I really do hate text. I would much rather speak to someone in person or on the phone if need be. Video calls are great too, but I would really much rather not do text because it can be taken out of context so easily. And the words that are used could be triggersome to you. The context, inside jokes, just so many different ways that the language could be taken. Oh my God, emojis. So let me start about that. I hate emojis because I never know what the other person means by the emoji that they send. So for me, right, I'm wondering how often the backspace wins for you. I know for me, there are very few relationships that I really have to second guess myself on. Usually I just say what's on my mind, and if I have to explain myself, I do. But sometimes I have very I'm not going to say temperamental. I'm going to say sensitive people in my circle, and I got to be careful of what I say and how I say it to them. As much as I want people to know that I am who I say I am all the time, whether I'm online or offline, there are days where I have to be extra graceful and have a little bit more finesse, and some days where I really don't need to, depending on who I'm speaking to. So, for example, right, there are certain things that I will never tell my daughter because I don't want her to start worrying about unnecessary stuff. I'm not going to threaten her with, I'm going to leave if you don't do this. My mom used to do that shit. I'm not going to threaten her with bodily harm. I'm going to beat your ass if you don't do this. Mostly because I know that if I were to raise my hand with her, I am not entirely sure that I could control myself. I've always had a temper, and the only way that I can sidestep it is to take a deep breath and really talk about the issue at hand rather than get carried away with what you're doing and how that makes me feel. So for me, right, there are certain things that I would never tell my daughter because I don't want her to worry, like I said, unnecessarily about things that really have no concern in her life. And it's more a reflection of my mood rather than anything that she's doing right or wrong. There are certain ways that I will and won't speak with my mother, certain things that I will and won't tell my brother. There are certain things that I will or won't say to my clients because I have to consider their mental health, their clients, right? There are certain friends of mine who are battling their own demons, and I can never tell by the look on their face or the mood that they happen to be in. I can never tell if it's because of me or not. And this is a trauma thing, right? This is an old trauma thing that it's kind of like I fall back into a pattern where I need to clear my name first before I feel okay enough or safe enough to speak around you and ask what the problem is and how I can help you solve it. So for me, that is very traumatic still. I still fall into that place where I'm a little girl and my mother is upset with me and I can't tell if she's done being mad at me or not. I can't tell when the fight is over, right? Or the miscommunication is over until something happens and her behavior shows me that she's okay with me. Until then, I am on pins and needles. I'm very, very scared and I try really hard not to make any waves, draw attention to myself. I kind of just blend into the carpet basically. So with that being said, if I go through those things, I can only imagine what all of you go through as well. When I say the backspace wins, I'm talking about how many times have you started to say something and you're like, nope, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm not going to do that. Or you start to say something and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm too scared. What if she doesn't like me? Or what if he is offended by the thing that I say? Or what if he takes it the wrong way? Then it becomes a guessing game of what could or could not happen, what might or might not happen. And rather than do that, I would rather us take the risk. But like I said, we're not always ready for the consequences. Sometimes there are people that witness a bullying incident, let's say, for example, right? And they know that if they just said something that, they might have the potential to stop the bully. But the other thing is, it depends on what they're looking at. Is the bully bigger or smaller than they are? Is the bully in a position where if they were to say something that they would turn their focus onto the person that says something rather than continue pounding away at the original victim? Like, these are things that people really need to worry about. They really do worry about. Should I stand up and say something? Should I put myself in the crosshairs? Should I risk my comfort in order to save somebody else or to do what's right or to correct somebody? Any one of 1,000 different situations. There were so many times where I wanted to tell my ex-husband that, what he was doing was not fair. That I didn't like who he was when he was drinking, or I didn't like what he was doing when he would leave in the middle of the night, stuff like that. But I didn't have the guts to say that because it would start another fight, and I just did not want anything to create more drama for me. I wanted as much peace as possible, and I really do hate. I really do hate confrontations because I never know which way it's going to go. Yes, it's always beneficial to me to draw a line, but that also means that I'm giving the other person the opportunity to get the fuck up and walk the hell away from me because they don't like what I'm saying, or they don't like the line that I drew, and it's offensive to them, and I get that. And a lot of times I chose comfort over drawing a boundary and protecting myself because I thought it would be too painful to start over. And I think I did a podcast episode recently about this as well, where I'm talking about, we create a lot more trauma with all of the actions and behaviors that we choose to display in our efforts to avoid pain. So, with all that being said, how often do you second guess what you're about to do? How often do you start a message and delete all of it? How often do you write a post and delete half of it? How often do you say something and then have to apologize later? I want, in my life at least, I want for the backspace button not to win so much. I want to say what I want to say, when I want to say it, without fear. I'm not going to say of what. Without fear. I want to say what I want to say, and you take it or leave it. Which means I have to be very, very strong in my own convictions. I need to be very, very confident and comfortable with my own damn company because chances are I'm going to piss everybody off and they will leave me. But if that's the case, then they're not my people and I should be okay with that, right? Because what's the worst that could happen? That you could stand by yourself? I'd be alone in my principles? But is that really a bad thing? Does that mean I really stood up for something? That I really stood for something? Anyway, the point being that I feel like a lot of us have a lot to say, but we're too scared to fucking say it. We would rather like backspace our way out of whatever comment we were about to make. And it's different, like when you're when you're with a group of people and you're ready to make fun of somebody, or one person makes fun of them, you're willing to join in because you already know one other person feels that same way. But when you want to stand up for that same person who's being made fun of, you're afraid that you might be the only idiot in the entire group that feels that way. And then you'd be ostracized along with the person that was being made fun of in the first place. Like, what kind of risk is that, right? But isn't that the right thing to do? Isn't that a life of integrity? Isn't that you really being yourself in every possible situation? And I still don't have that yet. But more often than not, 75% of my life is like that. I can say what I want to say when I want to say it. And I'm confident that whether you like it or not, I'm not going to give a shit. But for that 5% or 25%, what did I say, 75%? 25% that's left over of people that I really care about, and I worry about, how they feel about me and what their opinion is of me, and I do want them to like me, of course I do. But am I willing to lose everybody over my principles, over my integrity, over my values, my belief system? Am I willing to let go of everyone if they decide they don't like it? Because let's face it, there are not a lot of people out there that can disagree with you and still be your friends. They're going to want you to align with them somehow, right? But wouldn't that be the life where you could just be as you are? And if they come, they come. And if they go, they go. But you're still okay. You're still standing. You still have enough energy to fight the rest of whatever battles you have for the rest of your journey. But at least you said your piece. At least you were honest. At least you did things because you wanted to, not because you were obligated, not because it was the right thing to do according to everybody else. It was not the popular thing to do or the most common thing to do. It's not what everyone else is doing. It's not a sheep thing to do. You did it because you wanted to. You felt it in the moment and you said what you needed to say. How would that feel? How empowering would that be? How traumatic would that be? To risk it all every time when you open your mouth or when you start typing. Is that terrible? Is that a pipe dream? Is that achievable? Can we really do that in the face of all the traumas we've lived through? Because I want to, man. I'm telling you what, I want to. For the most part, I feel like I do what I want to do. Within reason. I try not to hurt people. I try not to inconvenience people. But if I love you because I want to, not because I'm obligated. And if I take care of you, it's because I want to take care of you, not because I'm obligated. And if I'm doing something for you, it's not because I want something in return. I do it because I can, because I feel like it. It's what I'm doing. Get over it. Whether I'm affectionate or, reprehensible, whether I'm loud and obnoxious or I'm quiet and observing, I do what's in my heart to do as much as I possibly can. And in that regard, I try really hard to say what's on my mind in the most graceful manner possible. And I try to really be aware of how often I backspace. Not talking about spelling mistakes here, but talking about telling somebody, getting ready to tell somebody something and they'd be like, nah, you know what? It's not worth it. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe this isn't the time. Maybe it's not the best, news to be delivering. Maybe it's bad news and I don't want to deliver it. It shouldn't be me. Or maybe, I'm about to put my head where it's not actually been invited, but because I see them wrong, because I want to do right by the people involved. But then I'm like, nah, you know what? I'm going to get in trouble for even opening my mouth. I should just shut up and leave everything alone. So I really want, I'm telling you out there, source, I want the kind of life where I can just write what I need to write, say what I need to say, and let everything kind of fall into place from there. But I'm not always brave, and I still get scared. And I wonder, would you want that kind of life too? Or are you comfortable with where you are right now? Just curious. Let me know what you think, you guys, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye.